and it's a quick turnaround as well.
That could be the time frame as well for Joshua Fury. If that fight does get done, who wins?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't say for sure, man. It's a case of both men winning and both men losing, because they're both showing different style in their boxing in their boxing lately. Tyson Fury's turned aggressor and Joshua's turned a back foot fighter. Crazy, isn't it? You never think you should Joshua box on the back foot and being careful. You never think Fury will come in the front and be aggressive. So it's hard to say.
Final word.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from Dillian, the body snatcher Whyte, no longer Nate Robinson Whyte. And my loyal dons out there already know my opinion, but the reason I'm doing this video is because I find it sad that we have to hear this, as AJ fans that is. 2 years ago, AJ fans, myself included of course, we sat back and the world was our oyster. I used to laugh at all these dons. There wasn't one don where it was even marginally close. It was whether a case, are they gonna dare get in the ring? That's how I used to look at things, seriously. I'd look around at Wilder. All I'd see is a whole bunch of open backsides. A whole bunch of butts in the air. Head down. Back up. Simple as that. That's all I saw. And I was just wondering, which one are we poking today? Is it that one? Is it this one? They're all gonna get poked anyway, the same way. As it happened, Wilder, scary. He's scary. He didn't want no smoke. He didn't want no smoke. Fury, as we're finding out, does he want the smoke? Don't he want the smoke? We don't know. Either way, fast forward to 2021. People tell me, well, YB, AJ lost, and that's why. Losing don't mean nothing. Losing makes you come back more vicious. That's what historically has been the precedent, by the way. Show me any great. If you're a true AJ fan, you believe AJ has the potential to be the greatest or one of the greatest. I'm sorry, but that's what's in the policy. To be considered one of the greatest, you have to come back with more. There ain't one great who lost and then come back and they was soft, or they came back softer than they was before. In my mind, that's just one of the qualifications. To be in the GOAT list, you must be vicious after your loss. We've talked about Lewis, and even lesser fighters, much lesser fighters than AJ. Look at Dillian Whyte. Got murked by Povetkin. Murked by him. Laid to rest. If anyone should have been running around the place, dancing from him, it should have been Dillian Whyte, given how chinny he is. You've got AJ, potentially one of the greatest athletes around today, full stop, across all sports. And his goofy team are no good. Don't have no belief in him. That's what it comes down to, I'm afraid. People want to say, oh, YB, I'm tired of you saying this. Well, I'm tired of saying it too. I'd rather be just poking butts as well. But we are where we are. The fact I'd rather be talking about poking butts doesn't detract from what's reality. The reality is, Dillian Whyte, and he isn't saying this because he's a hater. You know me, I'll be the first one to say, Dillian the hater Whyte. When AJ lost against Ruiz and Dillian Whyte said, oh, well, it's because of the juice, I called it out. I mugged him off. No problem doing that. But on this occasion, he's right. In 2021, AJ versus Fury is this big circular reasoning fight. That's what it is now. That's what it's become. Is Fury going to go forward? Is Fury going to go back? Is AJ going to go forward? Is AJ going to go back? That's what it is. And if you disagree, you're lying to yourself. I'm sorry, you are. I'd love to sit here and tell you, yeah, AJ's going to go in there and just maul all over him. 2 years ago, we would have known what time it was. And that's what I'm getting at. 2 years ago, AJ fans, we could sit back and it was just a case of who would dare get in there. Now, it's all this other stuff. Oh, well, is he not? What's gone on here? Now, Fury, he got a new trainer. And that's what people who say I'm critical of Rob McCracken, yeah? But over the time, especially recently, good trainers have shown themselves. Casual fans or any fans who haven't appreciated how valuable trainers are, just look around the place. Look at the night and day changes. Conor Benn, Lawrence Okolie, I'm sure there's other ones out there. Canelo with his trainer, even though he had the same one. But you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, there's clear night and day between what a great trainer can do. Oh yeah, that's another one. Tyson Fury, throw him in there. Tyson Fury went from dancing around the most... Now, whatever AJ's doing now, nothing compared to what Fury was doing. Fury would run! Chicken didn't want to get stuck in nowhere. Changes to a training for 6 months, and he's getting stuck in. Being a heavyweight, doing what heavyweights do. So, if you really care about someone's career, like I do AJ's, you've got to call out what you see. And at the moment, the trainer is hanging around his neck. And he knows it as well, because guess what? He brought in 2 other trainers. You don't do that. Show me another trainer, yeah, or show me another athlete who's doing well, and they bring 2 new dons in. Don't make no sense. He knows it as well. So, if more people said something and not just sat there and chilled, oh, well, YB, look what Rob McCracken's done for him. What do you mean what he's done for him? He's done it all himself. I like to look at it the other way. Look at what could be happening. Ruiz could have had his wig flown off his cart. That's what could have happened. Stopped in devastating fashion. Pulev should have been done within 3 rounds. Fury, we should be sitting back now, just licking our chops. Instead, we've got to say, well, is AJ going to be tentative? Is he going to... You just don't know. We can't... I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, man, but we can't sit here, yeah, and just say, oh yeah, AJ's going to go in there and maul all over him, which he can do. Don't get me wrong. AJ under the right trainer, this fight don't go more than 6-7 rounds. If AJ goes in there, and this is what gets me the most, listen to what AJ says. Don't listen to me. AJ said about after Canelo beat... Who did he beat? Smith. After Canelo beat Smith, AJ said, when I fight Fury, I want it to be similar to Canelo. Well, I hate to break it to you, McCracken ain't that kind of trainer. He ain't. When you look at AJ's earlier fights, that style came all from Tony Sims. And it's almost perfect causation here. Look at when Tony Sims left AJ's camp. I believe Tony Sims left the camp in about... I think it was just after the Parker fight. He left. And almost to the day, the Povetkin fight happened, which was more boxy. And then, I think, the Pulev fight was the first time you see AJ drop his lead hand. And then, we all know what happened after that. And we find ourselves now against Pulev, for example. So every day that Tony Sims hasn't been there is a reflection on Rob McCracken. What do you think's happened? Now, some people disagree. Some people say, well, YB, you're wrong. McCracken's the best because AJ's got better from his earlier fights. I don't know what you man are watching. I really don't. I don't get it. Tony Sims, look at Conor Ben. Conor Ben ain't nowhere near the level of athlete that AJ is, in my opinion. And he's also not been in the sport as long. But look how he's performing. Look at Carl Froch. McCracken's best protege. Good for nothing. Technically speaking. What was Froch good at technically? He was a good chin, a good cardiovascular engine, and that was about it. Sloppy as you like, no skills. Just in there, a good British grudger. Which was great for Carl Froch, but not when you've got potentially one of the greatest athletic frames in the whole history of the sport. You've got that, and all the potential is being wasted. In my mind, the way I look at it, I think of all the crazy things AJ could be doing. In my opinion, he should be in there, Josh Taylor-esque. The old heavyweights of old, just mauling these. That's how great he is. AJ's from that cloth, in my opinion. That he has that ability, if not more. I think he's more able. That's my opinion. And that's why I hold him to that standard. I believe AJ's more able than Lewis. I think he's more able than Tyson, given he's got the height as well. He's like, I say it every time, but AJ's like a hybrid between Lewis and Tyson. Lewis, you never see Lewis throw 6 shots at once. AJ can put 6 together. Well, he used to. And they'd be effective. Look at Conor Ben. Conor Benn under Tony Sims. Did you see any fat on them shots? Did you see him swinging massive right hands and missing by miles? Did you see him throwing 4 uppercuts and all going in the guard? No, there was all no fat on them, no wastage. And in fact, scarily enough, after the fight, Conor Benn said, I'm focusing on my accuracy. I don't want to waste nothing. I want all my shots to touch. I want to touch them all over, efficiently. That kind of talk is what the sport's about. And that comes from the influence of the trainer. Clearly it does. It just does. That's there as a mentality when you're training. You have to breed that into your fighter. You've seen the Pulev fight. There was no accuracy. There was no efficiency there. It was just go mad, go crazy, unleash the beast. The fire's in there burning, but it ain't being fed. This trainer McCrappen don't know what he's doing, and he's taken one of the most dangerous athletes in the history of the whole sport, in the history of the world, of all sports, and the potential's being. All I'm saying is the potential's being wasted. This Fury fight, AJ will win it anyway. But it's the fashion it will be done. At the moment, the odds are, at best, it'll be a late stoppage. I mean, like round 12. At best. That's the absolute best situation. If AJ goes in there and it's all this tentative stuff, because you ain't going to... Like, I don't believe... When you see how Pulev got knocked out, Pulev's old and slow. Fury... He ain't nowhere near as good as AJ, but Fury, we can lie to ourselves, but let's be honest now. Fury ain't Pulev, is he? His feet ain't stiff. He's not old. He clearly can recover from shots. So you ain't going to get them same opportunities. You're not going to be able to go in there with... AJ went in there with Pulev, yeah? And from round 3 to round 8 didn't do anything. He didn't put any groundwork in. He didn't soften Pulev up at all. It just so happened, what round was it, 2 or 3? In round 2 or 3, AJ's hands are that heavy, he caught him with something and that was it. But that's Pulev. I don't believe you're going to get them one-off ones. Oh, look, Pulev's 40 and I've caught him and he's gone. That's what happened in round 10. It wasn't a case of, wow, AJ's pummeled him. Look at the Brazil fight. That's what that was. AJ went in there and touched him all over. Blew all of the things out. Not even sure what I was about to say, but AJ blew anything that was there to be blown out, he blew it out. All the back, all the glutes, yeah? All the different bits got blew out. Because he was in there working. The whole fight, from round 1 to round 7, AJ working Brazil. And you saw the result of that. You know when someone's been worked or not. Look at Pulev. Pulev weren't worked. Pulev didn't have a touch on him. He jumped straight back up. Brazil was... Just look at the guy. You know when someone's been worked or not. Pulev weren't worked at all. That was just a case of... Essentially, in my opinion, AJ beat Pulev just because of his genetics. That was a case of... I'm so genetically superior. I can throw one right hand and it's going to knock you out. And that's what happened. That wasn't a case of, Pulev can't stand up anymore and he's been whooped all over the place and he's now knocked out. No, that was... It was almost, in my opinion, it's kind of just lucky. That weren't earned. AJ didn't earn that stoppage against Pulev. And if you think he did, you're lying to yourself. Now, when you go in there with Fury, you ain't gonna... I don't believe... To stop Fury, you need to put work in. You need to be like Canelo, but almost more. Because Canelo isn't enough to stop. Because Canelo couldn't stop Callum Smith. Now, Fury's better than Callum Smith, in my opinion. So, if Canelo can't stop Smith, then... And that was Canelo being aggressive and cutting the ring off. And that's the point. What AJ did well, or used to do better than Canelo, was his work rate, was his combinations. He'd be working a lot more. Canelo puts 1 or 2 together, and then resets and puts 1 or 2 together. Big ones. AJ would cut the ring off, similar to Canelo, and then put 4, 5, 6, 7 together. That's what needs to happen in this Fury fight if you want to stop him. Or if you want to win in devastating fashion. Let's not forget, Mike Tyson didn't stop everyone, but what he did do is, they got worked. It was no, when Mike went the distance, there was no confusion. He won every round because he was working. He was rattling shots off. And he actually fatigued. Normally, Mike fights. Normally, people forget that most Mike Tyson fights that went the distance actually ended up ballfests in the last 6 rounds. In the last 6 rounds of Mike fights, they were just hugfests. You'd see Mike would get lazy, and he'd just lunge in and start clinching. He'd get tired. He was just too explosive, and that's why I think AJ's a better version. AJ, we haven't even seen AJ working at 240 yet. I believe AJ can go in there and output Mike Tyson kind of power and combinations, but for 12 rounds, and that's a scary thing. All we've seen AJ do is go in there and dance at 240, which is great, which shows how much of an elite athlete he is. I've never seen a heavyweight be able to do what he can do. Meaning, AJ's as good at dancing as Fury is, but he's also an explosive athlete. Do you understand? We've never seen anything like that. Lennox would be hanging after. You look at AJ's performance against Pulev, against Ruiz too. Lennox was hanging after 7 rounds, 8 rounds. Them heavyweights from the 90s, they was blowing. They was gone after 7, 8 rounds. They'd be just hugging all the time. Go watch it. You can see it yourself. AJ's superior to them, man. In the dancing around, but also what's missing at the moment is the explosive side. It's been completely neglected. And to beat Fury, unfortunately, this isn't one of them fights. Yes, you can beat Ruiz that way. You can beat Pulev that way. But Fury now, if you want to lay the gauntlet in this fight, if you want to lay it down, do you think AJ is going to do an amazing performance by beating Fury on points and by just dancing around the place and putting a jab out there and the occasional right hand? No. How AJ dominates Fury, which is a completely different fight to the Ruiz fight. Well, really, they're all the same. From AJ's point of view, all these cats should be the same. Because he's that good. Ability-wise. There shouldn't be anyone AJ looks at and thinks, oh, you know what, we have to dance around against this guy. There shouldn't be. I don't get it myself. I don't know what they see in these guys. All of them, it should be the same approach. Look at Canelo, for example. Now, admittedly, Canelo, when he fought Triple G, he did actually give him quite a bit of respect in that first fight. But the second one, he came back and said, this man, I'm not giving him no respect. And you saw the result. Dominated the first 7 rounds and then got tired. And he's at 160. AJ don't get tired at 240. So, yeah. I've talked on this a few times already, but that's the bottom line here. What kind of champion do you want to be? I have no doubts AJ can beat Fury any way he decides to do it. But winning isn't enough for me. I'll be happy that he won, but I want to see him win in style. Win 12. There's no reason AJ can't win 12 rounds. There's no reason he can't stop Fury. Go in there with your chin down and your elbows in and just get on. He knows what to do. We've seen him do it before. This should be back in 2017, 2018. Fury was just a standard fight like any other fight. You can watch them all. Takam, Parker. That's the baseline. You go in there, your hands are up, you're driving forward with a jab, you put the right hand in, and then you look to work. There's no rushing, there's no, I need to panic and throw massive. Just go in there and work. That's what's missing now. I can't remember the last time I've seen AJ just go into a fight and work. Even the first Ruiz fight, even that fight wasn't it, because watch how he comes out. He comes out and he's the one dancing around again. I don't know what's changed, and it wasn't the loss. That's not what's changed. And arguably, it's the trainer again. It's almost like AJ when he was under Tony Sims, yeah, he had this level of confidence. The same kind of confidence we saw from Conor Benn. He went, no matter who AJ went in there with, and I guess even in the Klitschko fight, he showed Klitschko too much respect in the first 4 rounds. But the point is, in round 5, he put the hammer down. In that fight, he adapted. He went in there a bit anxious against Vlad. After 4 rounds, he got over it and put the hammer down. All the other fights, AJ went in there and just started working. And it's almost like Tony Sims left, and he was left with McCracken, and as we know, boxing's a large percentage mental. And if you got a trainer who just don't get it, it's not Rob McCrappen's fault. He just there's a reason. There's levels to trainers. Not everyone can be a Hall of Famer trainer. It's not a disrespectful thing to say. It's the truth. Rob McCrappen has proven he ain't a Hall of Famer trainer, and AJ is a Hall of Famer fighter. So you've got to match it up. Otherwise, you end up where we are now. And there's no other way to say it. No other way to say it. When AJ was under Tony Sims, he had this complete different attitude. And when AJ went in there against Ruiz in that one fight, in the first fight, a completely different guy. Now there may have been other factors in there, but even so, AJ could have got stopped doing it the other way still. Does that make sense? He could have gone in there with that aura still and then got beat because he was whatevered. He didn't. He went in there and it was all tentative. And it's that same thing we saw in Ruiz 1 is what's there now against Pulev. Almost exactly the same. So, Dillian Whyte, you heard what he said. AJ and Fury now is a toss-up as such. Well, not a toss-up, but it's a big logical argument now. AJ and Fury was never a logical argument. It was straightforward. He goes in there and he works a heavy bag for 12 rounds. It's not all that feinting stuff's all cool. But once someone's in there just to work, it don't matter. You're gonna feint. I'm coming forward, and I'm gonna parry whatever you flick out. I'm parrying it, and I'm gonna get to work. For example, look at Canelo. You think that, and it's gonna be interesting to see actually how he deals with Billy Ho. But I'm gonna bet he goes in there with Billy Ho and he just works, because Canelo's learnt from the Mayweather fight. In the Mayweather fight, he gave Mayweather way too much respect. And he allowed Mayweather to do these tricky things. He gave Mayweather too much respect. Now, you watch, Canelo will go in there with Billy Ho. And that fight, luckily, is before the Fury fight. And that is whatever Canelo does against Billy Ho is how AJ needs to approach this fight. I'm going to bet he goes in there and he don't buy into it. You can feint, I'm coming forward. And if I have to take one to give you 5, so be it. And that's what it comes down to, as well. We know that Fury, I've never seen Fury put 5 together. And if he does, they're all slaps anyway. So even if AJ has to eat one, when you get in, you're opening him up. And even then, you don't even have to agree to take him one, because AJ can slip. I've got videos coming soon of AJ's old fights. He's slipping the jab. In fact, I even showed you him on my last Takam video the other day. AJ, Takam jabs, AJ slips it and steps in. So it's not even a case of saying, we need to take one. Work on your evasive, elusive maneuvers in the pocket. Where's that side of the game gone? Show me it. Show me in the Pulev fight where AJ's in the pocket working, in the pocket being elusive. This is what the beauty of boxing is. It's not, I'm dancing around and I'm landing a jab every other round. We used to laugh at that. And that's what Fury does. Isn't it? That's not what we pride ourselves on. Well, not what I thought it was. Maybe it is. I don't know. You man tell me. All you man seem to love it. It's the best thing since sliced bread.